You are now listening to SOPHISTICULTURE, a podcast by OBSCURAE Productions. If you enjoy this episode, please consider buying us a coffee. Your support helps us continue bringing you our coverage and episodes, including the podcast, our articles, and our TikToks. The link is in the podcast description. Thanks in advance. Coming to you live from my room in central London with all the ambient noise that would imply, this is UMNIA, and I am giving you the BFI London Film Festival SOPHISTICULTURE recap. It has been so interesting. I think I saw the best movies of the year at this festival and the worst movies of the year at this festival. Luckily, all three of our guests made great films, so I didn't have to fake anything. But it was so interesting looking back at the program, and I'll give you our best ofs at the end of the podcast. But it was looking back at all the films we watched, it was quite an eclectic mix of stuff that I thought was amazingly good, stuff that I thought was amazingly bad, like really bad, and then a lot of in the middle. And I have my own feelings on what that means about the industry, and of course the really bad stuff I will not be telling you about because I paywall that behind the Patreon, as you know, my personal Patreon, because I don't like the idea that I would be actively publicly, and of course it's very, it's a nominal thing to say, oh, it's behind a paywall on Patreon. Anyone could essentially watch it. It's technically public, but you know what I mean. It's hidden. It's not me going out and broadcasting what I did and didn't like, right? Because I don't like the vibes of that. So, with all the ambient noise of London aside, we're going to start with what I can't believe I've managed to get us, which is an interview with Susan Chardy, who plays Shula in On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. So, On Becoming a Guinea Fowl didn't make our London Film Festival list because it was one of our favourites. I don't think it made the best of, but it was certainly one of our favourites at TIFF. And it is a very grueling watch if you are anyone from the African diaspora that's had to contend with the pressures of cultural patriarchy that embeds itself within the culture, so that even the women you're meant to trust, your aunts, your mother, your grandmother, all of the system is built not to help you resolve anything, to protect men against doing bad things. And so it's a film that ultimately is a very grueling watch for you if you've had to contend with that in real life head on. And there's going to be a lot of women who find this to be a very heavy film, but it's a brilliantly made film and an intensely well performed film. Especially the performance from Susan Chardy was absolutely fantastic, and I believe she has been announced as one of the performers on the long list for the Breakthrough Performer Award at the British Independent Film Awards, which is BFI. It's one of our big it's our Independent Spirit Awards, right? So, big deal, very well deserved. Here is our interview with Susan, and she has a fantastic answer to our SOPHISTICULTURE question at the end, where we ask artists to take the time to platform one thing that may not be the movie they're necessarily promoting, that they feel they want people to pay more attention to, and just use their voice to uplift anything from the most mundane to the most political, the most profound. Nothing is no wrong answers, and Susan gives a fantastic answer. So here is our interview as part of a roundtable at London Film Festival with Susan Chardy.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to, yes, let's have a look at this. And then I watched I'm Not a Witch because I hadn't seen it, fell in love with it. And I was like, I would absolutely love to work with him. Like, yes, I'll do it. And then I went for the audition process with Isabella Adolphin. And then went from that audition to then doing a Skype, is it Skype or Zoom? I can't remember. Video call with Rungano and a few of the aunties and some of the cast members, which I wasn't expecting them to just pop up on the call. And then we did some improv, and they threw me in the deep end. If you saw what the aunties are like, they're vicious. So it was kind of finding the balance of being respectful, but being able to find my voice with them. And I don't know exactly what Rungano would have been looking for in these moments, but she'd obviously briefed them on what to say, and I had zero clue, so it was pure improv, but in character. And then it was, but I loved it. if you're not terrified, we're not living, right?
Period.
So yeah, and then I jumped right in with them, and it was an experience. It was fun, and I liked it because it allowed me to really kind of see what each of them were like and just get stuck in there with them. And then it went from that to getting that amazing call that I got it. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When you first read the script, what stood out to me was one of many things. When I was researching it, it was rated PG-13. Mm-hmm. When you first read the script, how affected were you by the fact that so much is just implied and just made the audience or the reader, kind of feel that in a very intense kind of way?
I didn't know it's PG-13, thanks. She doesn't give you a full script until you're really locked into the project. In this instance, anyway, I don't know if it's what she always does, but she did tell me I don't give the script out until. So I didn't see the full script until I was locked in, and it was like, okay, here's your script, go to work, and then we'll see you when you land on set. But when I'd read it, I thought it was just so important. It didn't even cross my mind to think about the age group of the audience that's going to be watching it. But I just thought it was such an...
That's what I mean. That surprised me so much because it is so impactful, it is so important, and it says so much, but... You
feel it should be older for you, do you think?
Well, in terms of understanding it, and obviously you don't want children to understand any of it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's all left for implication, while there isn't too many explicit violence or swearing or anything.
I think I get your question, but I also think that's the people who make those decisions would have, I guess, looked at the reason why it would have been PG-13. But if you're asking me if I had a 13-year-old, would I let them watch it? I think because of the way it makes me feel and my experience with the film, I personally would be like, you have to know who your kids are to be able to let someone who's 13 watch it. But you're right, there is a lot of it's not a big reveal moment film where you suddenly go, oh, it's this. The penny drops for you at different times, right? Because we don't all get it at the same time. And I do think because of that, it does. That's why they would probably maybe be like 13, because it's not obvious and it's not, there's no certain explicit moments where you'd have to protect a 13-year-old from. But there are a lot of things in it. The subject matter and the topic is definitely something that, you want to protect a 13-year-old from. But at the same time, I feel like they do need to know about this to be able to protect themselves, one, from a young age, and two, be able to see signs and know these things. Not everybody knows abuse is abuse until you speak to somebody else or you see something, hopefully something like this, that makes you stand up, makes you have a voice and makes you feel the courage to be able to speak up. So I think each parent to their own, but I do think it's an important film for young people to see, to learn from, male and female, period.
I completely agree with everything you just said. I was even going to say that there are maybe some 13-year-olds who will be grateful that a film like this is there as a reference, even to have this discussion. And I know certainly for African girls, myself, I'm from Sudan, we have a similar patriarchal structure where these conversations are really not allowed to be had. I want to wrap up by finally asking, for Sophisticulture, we ask artists to platform a topic of their choosing, something maybe that's irritating them, or a book they've just read, or an album they're obsessed with, or even a political issue they'd like to raise. I know this is an issue film, a film that gets into something that I really think has not been explored enough in modern popular culture or even modern culture, the pain of African girls and women and how we process that pain and that abuse. But I wanted to ask you and hand the mic over to you, Susan. What is something you'd like to platform, if it's that or anything else currently in this moment that you'd like to platform?
I have a lot I'd like to platform, but I think because the film it can be heavy for a lot of people, I'll keep it light on my end, and I'll say I am obsessed with Thames currently. So I have it on repeat. I just feel like she makes me feel, you feel good with it. It's not upbeat where you're dancing around, right? But she moves you through the mood. So every time I get ready, I have the latest Thames album on, and Love Me JJ is like one of my. Is that even the title of the song? I just know it. You know, Love Me JJ, that one. Love Me Tender, that one. Yeah, so that's the one that I have on repeat. But the whole album is gorgeous, and I think there's so much going around the world that's just so difficult to deal with and just process. I sometimes don't go on my socials just for my mental health sometimes, but I also feel guilty at the same time because those things we're seeing, they're the people that are going through it. Like if I can't look at it, imagine going through it, and it's just this, it's just so much, and I'm sweating and I'm feeling like, you know, because it just makes me so. It's a lot to deal with, but I do think it's important to stay on top of what's happening, and I just too much going on, and I think love is always the answer, and I pray a lot that this isn't the world my son, I have a 4-year-old, is going to be growing up having to deal with certain things and seeing other children suffering. All over the world. It's just, So I pray for peace.
Indeed, what a brilliant way to end it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was Susan Chardy, who played Shula in On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. Please do get your hands on this film. It's a BBC film. It's an A24 film. You will not have trouble getting your hands on this when it does come out. If you are fascinated, as I am, by first, second, third time filmmakers making incredibly poignant work, this is the only work people really ask of people of color to make. It's like, you know, the people of color experience. Currently, that's where we currently are. But when it happens, it, you know, when that gate is open to us, it's some of the best filmmaking you see every year. And so I was incredibly blown away by it, not just visually, but in its entire construction. And I was equal parts, you know, frustrated by it, because it's the story of a modern, progressive woman being pulled back into a tradition that has very little to give her in terms of restitution and justice. So fantastic, fantastic film. Get your hands on it. We are now going to move on to our next interview, which was with the Sasha Nathwani, who made Last Swim. If you're hearing about Last Swim around and about, it's kind of running the gamut of not just the film festivals, but also kind of starting to pick up awards, starting to pick up performer awards, I believe, all sorts. I had the pleasure of listening to Sasha and his producing partners. I think it was, I can't remember who his producing partner was that joined him on the film production market, Labs. But they went through how they made Last Swim, and so before I even watched the film, I had looked at the pitch deck, and it was a fascinating thing to witness. Last Swim is going to be for the Brits, but specifically the Londoners. It's about a day, it's about A-level results day, but it's taken to kind of its dramatic extreme. And I won't spoil too much about it, but it stars an Iranian Brit at the center of it, an Iranian girl, and it's brilliant. It has very little to do with, like, there is Iranian culture sprinkled throughout, but it has so much more to do with being a kid in London, enjoying summer, trying to enjoy summer, you know, for maybe the last time. You know, it's about boundaries, it's about coming of age, it's about crossing the threshold, and I thought it was a fantastically unpretentious script and a very, very, very beautifully visual film. So yeah, we really enjoyed Last Swim, and we got to talk to Sasha, who gave, again, another roundtable with a couple of other journalists and an absolutely stunning answer to the Sophisticulture question. So enjoy our interview with Sasha Nathwani.
I'm from OBSCURAE. We have a podcast called Sophisticulture, so this will be a clip on there.
Great.
I also found the film because you did your labs with the film production market, because we're also a production company, and I got to see the deck before I saw the film.
Okay, so you've got... cool.
Yeah.
So you're a maker as well, then?
I am also.
Okay, cool.
But at a much earlier stage than you, and I'm fascinated by your journey.
That's awesome.
But I'm going to let Dara start.
Thank you, guys.
Sure.
Thanks for joining us, Sasha, director of Last Swim. I just want to first ask, what was your experience leaping from, you know, recognised shorts and music videos to a full-length feature? Was it a relatively easy transition based on your previous experience, or was it a whole different ballgame?
Can I add also,
Yeah, sure.
What was the one lesson that you had? What was the one thing you learned from that previous experience that you had to let go for feature writing as well? Was there something you had to release as a long?
Yeah, I mean, independent filmmaking is hard, I think, no matter what the circumstances, you know, and I think when you do your first film, the relentless nature of the schedule and just the volume of coverage. You know, there's some days on Last Swim where we had to capture 7 pages of dialogue, and that's a lot of pressure. But my short form experience, in some ways, was helpful because sometimes when you do so you do a music video. Most music videos are a one-day shoot. Average length of a music video is 3 minutes. And there are lots of moments where you look at your shot list and you're like, I just don't have time to get all of this. We need to, like, how do we capture this? But let's not just capture it blankly. You know, because if you're on a film set and you've got 45 minutes to capture a scene, you don't want to just capture it in a wide or a mid. Yeah. So we were making strong editorial decisions on the set. So we're like, well, what if we put the camera down here? Or what if we filmed the whole scene through the windscreen of the car? So we were constantly making editorial decisions. I guess the biggest learning, jumping from short form to long form, it's not actually about the technicalities of how to make something, it's the sheer endurance. I'd never done more than a 4-day shoot before, and then I do my feature, it's 21 days, 11-day fortnight. It's just the endurance of it, and that's more about how do I stay healthy, how do I make sure I'm eating and drinking the right things, am I meditating, am I getting enough sleep? Because if you make the wrong choices at the beginning, and your body just shuts down, and it's just really hard to deal with the stamina of what a feature film set demands. So yeah, it was mainly those things, but also just to be present on set, and you know, you have preconceived ideas about how you want to capture a scene, but then you get there and the light isn't doing what you thought it would be, or that actor is having a bad day, or this shot that you thought was going to work is actually not working, and you just have to adjust to the conditions of the space and just be present, you know. So it's a combination of all those things. Yeah.
And then in terms of the inspiration for writing and then creating
Yeah.
the film, were you kind of drawing from your experience or primarily,
Yeah.
or did you work with the young cast to try and capture, you know, mixing what you experienced, how you felt, because it's a generally universal thing of the ending of school and going into the adult world, or did you try and talk to the actors about, you know, what it means to be today and compare that kind of side of it?
Yeah. It was both. I mean, the film was actually born out of frustration because growing up in London, I never saw coming-of-age stories that represented my experience of growing up here. All the coming-of-age stories were American. I never saw anything that was London, and anything that I did see in London wasn't reflective of my experience of growing up and my friendship circle and the way that I would interact with my friends. But then, obviously, I'm a millennial. This is very much a Gen Z coming-of-age story. All my actors are Gen Z. They're as close to the character ages as possible. And when you make a film about young people, you need to give them a little bit of rope and room to change things. If there was a line of dialogue that was more naturally delivered in a different turn of phrase, they would make suggestions. My cast were actually they weren't afraid to tell me what they thought. So we were changing things, and some of the scenes, particularly like those in the car, there was a lot of improv in those scenes, and a lot of that made it into the film. And I think that's the thing that makes it feel real. Yeah.
I was going to say, I have 2 questions, but seeing as we need to wrap it up, I'll leave it to one. On Sophisticulture, we like to ask artists to take the mic and platform a topic of their choosing instead of just asking about their film.
Wow, you put me on the spot here.
Okay, so I'll give you suggestions.
Yeah,
it could be anything. We've had albums recommended, we have had political issues raised, we've had a film that someone has been wanting to remake for forever in their entire career, and also I want to ask you what's happening next. What do you feel this trajectory of Last Swim is setting you up for? What do you feel you're supported to do next as well?
That's such a lovely question. The sophomore film is one that we're working on at the moment. It's the same team as Last Swim, so we're trying to keep the band together. And it's the anti-companion piece to Last Swim. So Last Swim is about the beauty of femininity. The next film is about toxic masculinity. It's a much darker telling of a different gender story. And if I had any random advice for people who are listening to this, it would be to listen to vinyl, listen to records on vinyl. I just bought a record player and I'm now buying albums that I listen to from the beginning to the end. So take a bit of a break from Spotify and Apple Music, listen to vinyl from the beginning to the end, and learn to experience art in a slightly different way. And you can really see the storytelling of different mediums when you do that.
One more tiny sneaky
Yes,
question.
he has to go. I'm so sorry.
What was the choice behind having a female protagonist instead of a male protagonist?
I'll be quick. I'll be super quick. I get that question a lot. Zeba is basically inspired by female cousins that I have, but the only difference there is my brother and I grew up here, and all my cousins grew up in Iran, and my female cousins are just like Zeba. So when we were thinking about the character, it felt more tragic to make the character a young Iranian woman, because rather than be in Iran, she's in Britain, where there are no societal restrictions. She can be anyone that she wants to be, but then for reasons outside of her control, she has her future taken away, and that felt more tragic. So that's why we went with the female protagonist.
Thank you so much.
That was Sasha Nathwani, director and co-writer of Last Swim. I love people bringing up vinyl. This is so important. And don't, just word to the wise, don't get a cheap turntable. It will screw up your records. Don't do that to yourself. It's not, do you think the record costs $20 for play? No. So if your record costs $20 and then the turntable you bought costs $20, what sense does that make? Invest in a good turntable. I don't even have a turntable yet because I'm investing. I'm saving for a good one. Okay? I have 12 vinyl records sitting on my desk right now that I cannot play. I'm waiting to invest in a proper record player. Okay? But Sasha really said that, and that was for real. That when he said that, he meant it, and I meant it too. So that was an amazing interview with him. It was a brilliant, very visual film, and I think London's going to love it. And specifically, everybody who's like a millennial, maybe Gen Z, some Gen Xers maybe are going to really love the nostalgic approach, because it's a very modern digital movie. It's not on film. It's not giving it doesn't give vinyl. It doesn't give retro. It doesn't give analog, but it gives nostalgia. And I think it's a very specific balance that he's struck visually. And I cannot wait to see what his next film is going to be and what he chooses to make next. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. Okay, final interview, and I honestly, this is the one I was buzzing about. I got a last-minute email from, shout out Nikki Astley, who's running the Filmmaker Afternoon Teas, which is how I managed to get these interviews. I had sent an email. Please hold. It can't be every day there needs to be a squad car. What is happening? Anyway, I had sent an email going, hey, I'd love to be at the Friday afternoon tea. Do let me know. I had no response. About an hour and a half before that final afternoon tea, Nikki gets back to me and goes, hey, are you still in? Do you want to come? And I go, oh, yes, please. Who's going to be there? And I look at the list, and there's a bunch of films I haven't seen yet, and I try to make it mostly, if not strictly, a rule that if I'm not intending to watch a film or I've not watched a film yet, I will not interview people. But the intention I had to watch Seeking Mavis Beacon, so when I saw Jazmin Jones and Olivia McKayla Ross on the list, I was like, I don't care that I've not watched it. I have to get... I have to get an interview with them because this looks so good. And so I'm sitting, I'm waiting, I'm getting my free coffee and my free snacks, right? In come two of the coolest people you've ever seen in your life. Ever. They walk in, it's like the whole vibe changed. And I'm going, be normal, be normal. I'm pretty sure it's them, but be normal, be normal, be normal. Finally, I get a chance to interview them. They come and sit down in front of me and I go, okay, I can't wait to ask these guys the Sophisticulture question because there's going to be an answer here that I'm going to love. So, okay. So now, honestly, Jack, roll the tape. This is Jazmin Renee Jones and Olivia McKayla Ross from Seeking Mavis Beacon, and I will tell you about the film when you've listened to their answers, because their answers to the question are lit. For real.
press record. I'm totally a professional. I know exactly what I'm doing.
This is great. We love this.
I am from a podcast called SOPHISTICULTURE. And what we like to do is hand the mic over to artists to platform anything they want in whichever form they want. So we're talking about Seeking Mavis Beacon, which is such a cool discovery film. It's a documentary, which I feel like modern day documentaries about Black people, I'm in. I'm in. But also, this is also kind of a chance to talk about anything else, because you guys are doing a junket now for the film, which is, you're getting to talk a lot about the film, but there are other things, like there's artists who are maybe more into an album right now, or when there's another film that we really love that's informing our next work, or, someone mentioned getting back into vinyl recently, and I'm trying to platform getting people back into vinyl. As I was saying before I rolled mic, everybody's dripped out today. It's very much giving style icons. So I wanted to pass the mic over to you, Jazmin, Olivia. What right now, it can be anything from a political cause that you want to champion all the way down to a drink you had yesterday that you loved. What do you want to platform right now as you're on this grand tour?
Wow, there's so many things. Olivia, do we have I'm looking you in the eyes before I go in a weird tangent to make sure that we're platforming something. Because, we did a taste test with the cut, and we started platforming white beans and things like that. I'm like, what do we actually want to promote here? Olivia, this is your hot take on torrents, I do think, is a crazy thing to platform in this day and age.
I think more piracy should be normalized, not in like it shouldn't be illegal thing, because I feel like if they regulate piracy, we'll be in a really weird place.
Deregulation, right?
Yeah. Well, mostly because I've been thinking a lot about like artificial. I was at a cafe with a friend, and we were talking about like artificial intelligence, and Jazz met me a couple years ago, and one of the ways we talk about how we've met is through a class that I taught about cyberfeminism. And one of the core ideas of that class was that technology is not inherently violent, but it's the people who use it that are. But I actually feel like when it comes to artificial intelligence, philosophically, I think actually artificial intelligence at its core is kind of uses a very violent logic. I actually would, if someone asked me, not inherently evil, because I think it's weird to apply like a moralistic lens to it in that way, but a lot of the way that we talk about artificial intelligence is we say like, oh, like this is a software that like learns, or this is a software that like makes decisions, because like fundamentally we've like undereducated the average person about like what artificial intelligence is, that like people think they have minds. And it's like a fiction that we even talk about in like research papers. We like talk about like how, artificial systems can like make decisions, but it's all metaphors for what at its end is like artificial intelligence. All they do is compute equations. And even if you ask ChatGPT to tell you a story, what it's delivering to you, even though it looks like a string of a story, what it actually is delivering to you is like the answer to an equation. And the equation that was solved is, how do I as a computer create a string of words that probabilistically look like human words and look like something that you'd like to say.
Literally, I found this out last week and it blew my mind.
Artificial intelligence systems don't make meaning. There's no meaning to understand. They just parrot humans. And similarly, the idea that an AI learns something is like fundamentally like not how it works. AIs gain more information by accumulating data. And when you accumulate, to me, I feel like a logic that implies that you can learn something just by amassing more and more and more information about it is inherently untrue. And feels like a logic that is quite violent because it's based off this capitalistic idea of mass accumulation.
Okay, so I love this. We're deplatforming AI, and I think like
People should like just turn it off. Like I think actually there's a lot of talk about AI and like we should learn how to live with it. And it's like actually like we need to stop building this as soon as possible.
I was going to ask, the reason you feel that it's inherently a violent system, just to imply that gaining more knowledge is inherently something that's bringing about truth. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That it implies that it comes with a level of truth because there's more knowledge. But
Well, it's like gaining more knowledge about things that already happened means you only know more about things that already happened. You don't know anything about the future. And we use AI so much to predict the future in a way that cannot possibly be correct and is usually quite violent.
that's amazing. I thought the violence you were implying has to do with the fact that it's just trained on stolen data too.
That too.
That's where I'm like, it is fundamentally at its
Even if it
core.
was trained with data that was gotten by permission, the premise that if you collect all this data about who people used to be, that you will have any insight into who they will be, is most of the time deeply racist or deeply some kind of otherist.
And if you think about it, that was the plot of a lot of 90s movies and early 2000s movies of like AI is predicting the future by looking at your past or looking at, you know, and
often the AI decides that the human race needs to be destroyed because
that's the end of that thought.
it almost always ends that way.
Well, then to like circle back, I think I want to platform an idea that Olivia shouts out in our film, which is treating your conspiracy theories as intuition, which like not in like the, I mean like that can go a lot of ways, but I'm talking about specifically like I've had a lot of anxiety when it comes to engaging with AI and using these platforms. So I've never used ChatGPT, and then I'm getting anxious that I'm like a millennial who's losing relevance because I don't know how to train an AI. And then we come to find out like the environmental impacts that each AI search has, and it's like, well, I'm so glad I wasn't like playing with this thing before I knew what I was playing with. So yeah, deplatform AI.
Google's literally planning to build like nuclear reactors to power its like AI grid.
and we're handing that power to Google. Like,
Yes.
you know, it's reconsolidating the tech power into the same few hands.
I love it. Yeah, deplatform AI, platform intuition.
Period. Oh, what a way to end it. Jazmin, Olivia, thank you so much. I can't wait to see the movie.
Wow.
Thank you.
Agree with that.
That's your ideas regurgitated back to you.
No, but you made it sound real sweet.
That's what a Gemini does to a Virgo.
That was Jazmin Renee Jones and Olivia McKayla Ross, two of the producers. Jazmin is the director. Olivia McKayla Ross is the assistant producer, the researcher, the cyber doula. Like, it's honestly, they don't just break the form in the film. The structure of the film breaks the form of film because everyone's playing like a lot of different roles in getting this to happen. It's a documentary, it's a lifestyle, it's an aesthetic, it's honestly a historical document. Seeking Mavis Beacon is something I can hand to someone and go, do you want to know the experience of being a black girl who was raised on the internet? Boom. There, here it is. This is what it meant. This is who I am. This is like, I may have absolutely nothing geographically or even culturally in common with Jazmin and Olivia, but we speak a similar language. And you know, when people talk about the chronically online community, if they don't like that term, I'll have to think of a better term. But when people think of my generation and us being on the internet when we didn't know that it was bad to have kids on the internet, even that as a concept has been highly like whitewashed, because the general gist of it is just like every time it's talked about in the public consciousness, I'm like, that's not what I relate to. That's not, it's kind of given this shallow vibe of like, you know, clean girl aesthetics and trends, like micro trends. And
and those kinds of things that have to do with like how internet culture has been useful to capitalism. And so the first layer down from that is anytime I meet a white girl in the wild who knows what the concept of fan fiction is or references Tumblr at all, immediately kin, right? And no one talks about that in public consciousness unless it's the butt of a joke. And then Seeking Mavis Beacon takes us to a deeper level, which is essentially the side of the internet I've been on since I was way too young to be like coherent about it, which is rabbit holes, information, misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, video essays, long written essays on Tumblr, visual art, visual glitch art, AI as a fear and now AI as a reality. Deep discussion, acknowledgement of the past, but without skewing the past. Like, how many different political conversations have I tried to have online where we are just not talking about the same facts? Not in the kind of MSNBC type way of we're just not talking from the same facts. It's like literally someone is talking about a whole different set of facts they found on a whole different part of the internet. And there is a level of, on top of that, I'm trying to articulate myself better here. There is a level that just has to do with you had to be there, but you had to be there is not a basis for fact. Like, it's not a researchable basis for fact. Like, fabulation and Mandela effects are a daily occurrence if you spent your adolescence on the internet, because you're going to think of things, remember things, forget things. There are memes that you are not going to be able to find anymore. There was a discussion on TikTok a while ago about how okay, you know, kiss my ass. You're so on TikTok. Why are you paying attention to TikTok? You're getting all your information from TikTok. There was someone talking on TikTok about the fact that the digital world is fundamentally an unstable one. It's not a good archival resource. Things disappear all the time. And Seeking Mavis Beacon is a fantastic early example of wanting to seek something for the benefit of, like, oh, giving someone their flowers or acknowledging someone within history, and then not being able to find any objective truth about them, not being able to put together a timeline story from A to Z that was coherent. And by the time there were any facts established, by the time there was anything laid on the ground, and this is also about the fallibility of memory, by the time there was anything put down as like any discernible fact that could get you to a resolution, the realization that some people just don't want to be found, like they don't want to step into whatever legacy you've created for them. This is a big deal. In terms of the conversation about the internet and internet culture, this idea of some people don't want to be heroes, some people don't want to be icons of a thing or recognized for XYZ. And this is a discussion that's happened on the internet around, you know, because at any moment you can make one tiny video that you think is inconsequential that makes you the face of something. And now, you know, there's very little you can do to reverse that. Like, there's almost nothing you can do to reverse that. There is no way of opting out of the panopticon. Like, and this is a film that basically covers all of that and everything else. It is... The reason I say it's like a historical document is that it really is a perfect snapshot of time. Like what it documents is broad enough that it can be a reference point, a proper, well archived, easily, like, unless it disappears. Can you imagine if it disappears? That would be so spooky. Something someone can go back to and go, number one, this kind of charts the start of the post-COVID era of humanity. So you're seeing different types of masks. You're seeing, you know, how sickness impacted people. You're seeing what the effects of it were on what you could and couldn't do. Not to an extreme extent, not to a point at which it's a perfect resource for that, but it's there. It's not like being erased from the conversation, which I appreciated, as you can imagine, if you know anything about me and my advocacy. But on top of that, it is a snapshot for what the internet has become. It's a snapshot for what, you know, like Shan Spear is in Shan Spear's in the documentary. Shan Spear, like, you know,
Friday night, late night junk food video essay Shakespeare. TikToks in, out, around, and through the bitch. It's brilliant. It is literally it's so much trying to create a resource for this Mavis Beacon exploration that it becomes a resource in and of itself. It's a stunning film. It's a fantastically well shot film. It's so visually beautiful. When I feel so bad because I'm definitely shot decking this. If this goes up on Shot Deck, this is going to become like my whole life. Every deck I have is going to have a shot from Seeking Mavis Beacon because it was just stunning. It was colorful, beautiful, just very, 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 very au fait. I loved it. And then as I'm thinking about the interview that I had with both Jazmin and Olivia, it was a short interview, but it was an interview that allowed me to see kind of what the thesis of the film becomes and also what the philosophy of the filmmakers were. And that was brilliant because I agree with a lot of what Olivia was saying about AI. I agree with the idea of following intuition over necessarily fact. And that sounds like, oh, well, that, but the idea of conspiracy theories as the beginning of intuition is so much, if you think about it, such a healthier way of looking at sources of power and sources of information. And on top of that, fact is not something that can be established. And within a power structure, it can most certainly be manipulated. So, especially at a time like this, where politically we are heading towards an iceberg, all of us in our respective countries, that is very scary. What I enjoy, what I really love about this film is that it is a literal stake in the ground that goes, this is where we were, this is where we are, this is culturally what we were contending with. There's even, spirit and tarot and all of that. I don't even know. Yeah, there was tarot in there. All sorts of different ways of communing with tech and communing with ourselves, our culture, our people, the community generally, how we communicate and how we connect to one another. All of it was covered in 1 2-hour documentary. It's not a waste of your time to watch. In fact, it may actively make you smarter and definitely will make you think a lot more about what we have, about how we use it. And I love the idea that Olivia is like a cyber doula. And so I love the idea of a cyber doula because I think if we are going to have any healthy relationship with the tools we have created, we inherently need to come to terms very quickly with the idea that some of the ethics that we have set up as being completely 100% unimpeachable are actually impeachable. They're very fallible. They're very messy. And humans don't work on that logic track, and it needs to be reevaluated. Just 10 out of 10 chef's kiss. I wish I could put this in the homes of everybody on planet Earth. I don't know what else I can advocate for in terms of this film. I don't know if they're going for awards if they want to, but if they did, they need all of them for it. And more than anything, I just want this to be something that people reference. Like, I would love for people to keep referencing this film, like in the film Seeking Mavis Beacon, like it was mentioned in Seeking Mavis Beacon. This is a really good, resource, for so many different reasons. So I really, really, really enjoyed that film. Get your hands on it. Luckily, it's being distributed by Neon. It premiered at Sundance. It's being distributed by Neon. So you should be able to find it a lot easier than you would any other type of documentary. So, yeah, I look forward to you guys seeing it, giving us your thoughts. And finally, I will close out the episode by going quickly through our best of BFI London Film Festival 2024. Some of these films you will have heard me talk about. It's like Seeking Mavis Beacon has won an award, but the others I will just quickly go through, and you can of course find all of our full reviews on our website. I will wait for this street sweeper to go by my window. Okay, here we go. Best setup winner is going to Anora, and the reason that is that the first 90 minutes are one hell of a movie in and of themselves, and it all switches around 90 minutes in. So that's the best setup for me. I loved Anora. I think it was maybe a tiny bit overhyped for me as I was going in, but it was certainly a very, very good film and one of the best of the season, for sure. Most underrated film goes to The Ballad of Suzanne Césaire, which is a surrealist film with absolutely zero structure that's talking about other surrealist artists from the turn of the century. And I will not spoil any more. It's brilliant. Get your hands on it. It's rather short, and you'll love it. And it's very beautiful, very beautiful. OBSCURAE Award for Insight goes to Seeking Mavis Beacon, and of course, that needs no explanation. We've just talked at length about how it provides insight, and the OBSCURAE Award for Insight always goes to a documentary, and it has specifically to do with stories that are telling that are getting us to think differently, that are getting us to see things that we weren't seeing before, and exploring things we weren't exploring before, instead of just kind of going, what happened here, that we all watched. Those kinds of documentaries are great, but the OBSCURAE Award for Insight is for things that we would not have been thinking about otherwise. Seeking Mavis Beacon is the winner for that. The OBSCURAE Uncharted Award for bringing obscured stories to a global audience goes to Dahomey. That's specifically the difference between, I will explain this here, because it's worth saying, the difference between the OBSCURAE Award for Insight and the OBSCURAE Award for the OBSCURAE Uncharted Award is that Uncharted is about things that were never going to get seen. Like, Dahomey is a story that up until 2024 most likely wouldn't have been told in this format, and it certainly wouldn't have been told by someone from the African continent, right? So the OBSCURAE Uncharted Award for bringing obscured stories to a global audience, which is to say, cultures that are inherently and often completely overlooked and or disregarded. So, for instance, Sudan Remember Us won it for TIFF, and the OBSCURAE Award for Insight has us thinking differently about things we are already being exposed to. So that is the difference between the two awards. So the OBSCURAE Uncharted Award for bringing obscured stories to a global audience goes to Dahomey. Absolutely fantastic documentary, kind of docufiction hybrid, which has a lot of brilliant narrative insights as well as documentary insights, and a fantastic conversation in the latter half of the film from students in Dahomey was fantastic. Please do get your hands on that. Best doom scrolling antidote winner is A Real Pain. A Real Pain has to be one of the coolest things I've seen Kieran Culkin do, like, ever. So you will love A Real Pain. Wow, the street sweeper is back. Why? Oh my god. Okay. Best doom scrolling antidote goes to A Real Pain. It's a fantastic film by Jesse Eisenberg, but the real standout performances from Kieran Culkin. It will keep you engaged during the entirety of its runtime. It grapples with fantastic questions, and I think part of the reason that it grapples with these fantastic questions is because it is inherently trying to ask, like, deeper questions about what trauma does and is, what generational trauma can and can't be touched and grappled with, and it's a nuanced conversation, which is why it's a doom-scrolling antidote. Best ending goes to Conclave. It's an absolutely brilliant film, but the ending really packs a punch, and I will not spoil it here. But Conclave is essentially about choosing the new pope, and so it starts with the old pope dying, and a series of incredibly crazy political events occur, each more ridiculous than the next, and the tension builds to an unfathomable level, and then finally the ending is just absolutely brilliant and pitch perfect. Best mise en scène goes to Maria. Maria may be one of our favourite films of the year. Maria, Seeking Mavis Beacon, I Saw the TV Glow. We're starting to build our end of year list already. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good, I mean, we have a couple more stragglers coming in November and December, but our year list is looking pretty neat, man. We know what time it is. Best mise en scène goes to Maria. One of the most stunning films of the entire festival circuit, and the performance from Angelina Jolie is unmatched. But specifically when you see Maria, you will know why we've given it Best Mise en Scène, because the framing and the sets and the way that the whole thing was shot is just a type of beauty that is unexplainable, and it's operatic almost in its scale. Best conversation starter goes to Blitz. It's a conversation starter because it is much more a horror film than it is a wartime epic. It gives tension on a level that is very scary. It's a film that's a lot scarier than you would think for the subject matter. I think we're used to a lot more coddly kind of, this was war, but we all got together and we took care of one another, and there's a bomb, but it's not visible, it just happened in the background. Like, this was scary. This was, rouse you from your sleep type scary. And of course, it is also a wartime epic about wartime Britain that brings back the concept and reminds everybody that it wasn't just white people in London in the 1930s and 40s. There were all different communities that were still here, that were represented here in London during the Blitz, even on the battlefield in World War II. But I'm sure that's a movie for another time. Best conversation starter goes to Blitz. As of recording, we have not yet awarded Best First Date Film. So if you want to know who won Best First Date Film, you will have to go onto Instagram and find out. But we have not yet awarded that. That is still sitting blank on my notes. So good luck and congratulations to whoever won that award. This has been our recap of London Film Festival. And here are my final notes on the festival circuit. As you know, I have covered the festivals all the way from BFI Flair at the start of the year, all the way to now at London Film Festival by way of TIFF. And I've covered a lot of films that have come out this year as well. And so as we're starting to leave festival season, as it wanes, and as we start to go into kind of award contention and people thinking about release dates of these films that have come out at these festivals, and then those release dates leading to, award contention, it's becoming clear. And of course, I've been in tons of industry talks and industry conversations. It's becoming clear that the industry believes that they cannot sell straight down the line dramas anymore. And so you are going to find that the Oscar and Academy Award nominees and all of those lists are going to be a lot more colourful this year than you're used to. I'm predicting, I may be completely wrong, but what I'm predicting is that this is going to be a year of getting your mind off the bleak, getting your mind off the tough. Everything has to have a little bit of an inspiration tug to it. Everything needs to feel upbeat, and which is why I think Anora is running rampant across the film circles right now, because it may be heavy at the end, it may have heaviness to it, it may still be an art house film that's challenging, but for the marketing and for the first 90 minutes, it's a party. And that's, I think, what the industry believes the audience wants. And this is where I now step back and I look at the two sides of me, the side of me that can tap into kind of what the industry thinks, and the other side of me that taps into, like, the internet. And I think every single time I tap into, like, the internet and, like, my generation and, like, what we're vibing with, it is so separate from what the industry thinks we want. And I don't, it's not, the internet's it's a bubble. We're in our bubbles. I'm not saying I know everything about everyone. I'm sure I'm going to be wrong about Gladiator 2. I'm sure my take on Gladiator 2, which is that I feel like it's not going to do as well as it thinks it's going to do, is completely wrong. And it'll get, break records and whatever. And Wicked will, it'll have its ceiling or whatever. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I think you should, like, the reaction to the substance should be instructive as to what audiences are reacting to, because the substance is a very, very heavy film that's so heavy it borders on absurd how heavy it is, and it's body horror. And it shouldn't work on a wide scale. And yet, the film circles trust me, I was at TIFF, people weren't talking too much about the substance. And then it won Midnight Madness. And suddenly everyone was like, oh, because that's people's choice. That's a people's choice thing. And suddenly like, oh. And then it came out in theatres that following Friday. And and then all the girlies were talking about it. And it became huge. Because there seems to be this continued discussion among film bros I met throughout London Film Festival, where it was like, no one, everyone misses the old types of movies. And Sean Baker said something similar about Nora. Everybody misses, the adult contemporary film that's like a good time, but it's also like, for adults. And, everybody misses the family film. Or everyone misses the kind of, early 2000s comedy. And I'm going, everyone? wish everyone. Oh well, you know, I have my ways of knowing what people. So many people over the industry networking events were telling me what they feel they think works and what no one is making, because everybody, you know, in the industry doesn't understand what people actually want to watch. So I'm very cautious when I say I understand what people actually want to watch. I'll just tell you from the perspective of what I've been seeing. People want the substance. People are going to enjoy something like Seeking Mavis Beacon. People are going to love Honora, but people are also going to love, like, Time Stalkers, the latest movie that's come out in cinemas that is just, like, kind of campy and fun, and it's like a time travel love story. And then people are also going to love, like, The Outrun, which is a very kind of heavy film. And they have loved The Outrun. And then people are going to love Blitz, which is a big wartime epic. People don't really give a shit. It just needs to be a good film. Like, it's like I think everybody's making so much meal of it. Oh, no more dramas. We just want genres. Oh, it has to be this kind of thing and that kind of thing. People don't want to be preached to. People don't want political movies. People don't give a shit. Make a good film. Like, is it that crazy? Is it that crazy to just say, like, make something that's entertaining to you instead of thinking about what everybody else wants to see? Just make the film you want to make. Don't sit there and try and justify it. Don't sit there and go, people are waiting for, people want to this. Just make a good film, my dudes. You know, people don't want to be preached to. It's like, you don't want to be preached to because you're sick and tired of being preached to or whatever. Go watch the movie that doesn't preach to you. Wow. Yeah, I think the key here is not to get overly indulgent about what people do and don't want. Oh, it's easier to sell a genre. Maybe that is the case for, like, you know, when it comes to, like, sales agents talking to distributors. But sooner or later that will flip back because the audience will stop wanting genre and they'll want something serious again. And it's like, at the end of the day, people are going to watch what other people tell them to watch. And what other people tell them to watch is usually what they feel that they want to watch anyway, right? Like, so, which is okay. People, so like, let's say person A will watch what person B is saying to watch, right? And person B is like people on TikTok. Like, they go, you have to see this film, right? They are usually covering the films that they went and watched and thought, that was ace. I need to tell everyone this was ace. Like, word of mouth is the only way anyone knows anything's of any value. And so you need to maintain that value as, that's it. That's all it takes. Just be a good film, get people to see the film, and then get people to share the fact that they saw the film. Like that, it doesn't matter if it's a drama or like, people don't want to be challenged. People do want to be challenged. Like people do. The Substance is not a non-challenging film. What's the other film that came out this year that was big? You know, Challengers quite literally is called Challengers. It's a challenging film. It's not a straight down the middle film. It's got a lot of politics in it. It's got a lot of fighting within it. It's not just kind of a scrappy, sexual threesome between, like, repressed boys and a tennis star. Like, it's a challenging film about, like, power and sacrifice, and that's not just, it didn't just do well because there was like 3 hot people playing the leads. There are many films that have come out in the last year, some of which I saw at festivals this year that had very hot, very handsome, up-and-coming people in them. And I didn't care. There's one film I'm thinking of specifically with a title I shall not name. I didn't even get to see the film. Everyone was hyping at TIFF. I've heard not a single bloody peep about that movie. Like, when a film flops with the audiences, when the audiences don't like it, that's it. It dies on the vine. That's all it takes. Just make a film that's good, that people want to talk about. I don't know what everyone's running around talking about. Well, people prefer this, people want that. Don't try and predict the future. Just make something fun and good that entertains you and that entertains your friends. And or that says something you believe needs to be said with a passion. Don't sit and try and think about what other people want. Because no one wants the film that looks great on paper, but that didn't do well, that they didn't enjoy in the cinema. And this is why I advocate so heavily for the films I like, because there are a group of people that are going to either buy their ticket or not buy their ticket based on what I say. a very small group of people in comparison to like any of the other film reviewers on TikTok. But there is also something to be said for the fact that that is the only real way that good movies get their moment, and it's the only real way that that bad movies bomb is that no one talks about them. And so I want to be part of that ecosystem only insofar as I get to see films in advance because I'm invited to these things, and I want people to know that there are good films about. Like that's the ecosystem. There is no voodoo to it after that. There is no magic to it after that. There is no spell you can cast that will make people like a movie that isn't good. Maybe you cast Paul Mescal. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I will see all of you guys after a little short hiatus because it has been a very intense festival season for us here at Obscure and at the Sophisticulture podcast. So we'll need to take a tiny, tiny, tiny little break, which will be over my birthday week, which is beginning next week. If you know, you know. And then hopefully we'll be back at the beginning of November with more dispatches and more news and more interesting things to talk about. And hopefully some interviews we are lining up as we speak with some of the filmmakers from some of the other films we really enjoyed at the festivals this year, and potentially a playwright that I'm incredibly obsessed with. We'll see if his schedule is free enough. He's a very busy man. Other than that, take very good care of yourselves. Thank you for joining us on this amazing odyssey through the film festivals this year. And now, as we head into awards season, look out for our reviews and our reruns of reviews as things start coming out in cinemas. I highly suggest all of you get your asses to a cinema that is playing Your Monster in the next few weeks, the new Melissa Barrera film. As we covered it in Sundance London during the summer, you'll remember it was one of my favorite films at the festival and maybe one of the best films of the year. Yes, I do not say that lightly. There are a lot of films that everyone's saying are the best films of the year that I do not agree with. But Your Monster is 100% something that you will enjoy if you enjoy my recommendations. So go and get yourself a ticket to Your Monster. Make sure you've secured your tickets to Glicked, because we'll all have an opinion on that, I'm sure. Because the only other thing that can get a film a massive box office weekend other than word of mouth is, of course, tons and tons of studio money. And I will see you on the other side of our little hiatus. Take care. Bye! Indeed, that was Sophisticulture, a podcast by OBSCURAE Productions. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider buying us a coffee. Your support helps us continue bringing you our coverage and episodes, including the podcast, our articles, and our TikToks. The link is in the podcast description. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.